Have you ever prayed with your whole heart and felt nothing in return? You closed your eyes, you folded your hands, you whispered your deepest fears and your quietest hopes, hoping that something larger than yourself was listening. But the silence stayed silence. No warmth. No answer. No gentle nudge telling you which way to turn. You may have walked away from that prayer feeling unseen, wondering if the divine had simply turned away from you, or worse, wondering if there was something wrong with you, something missing in your faith, something broken in your soul. You may have tried harder. You may have read more scripture, chanted longer, sat in meditation until your knees ached, all in the hope that this time, finally, you would feel that sacred presence respond. And still, so often, there was only stillness, and not the peaceful kind, but the hollow kind. The kind that leaves you tired and quietly heartbroken. But what if the problem was never your devotion? What if it was never a lack of love in your heart, or a lack of effort in your practice? What if, every single day, without ever realizing it, you were closing the very door through which divine guidance enters, through something as small, as ordinary, and as overlooked as the food on your plate? What if your meals, eaten in haste, in worry, in distraction, have quietly been clouding the very instrument meant to receive that gentle, sacred voice? Today, we are going to gently uncover this hidden truth together. And by the end, you may never look at your next meal the same way again. Imagine a woman named Meera. She wakes early every morning before the sun rises. She meditates in silence, she reads sacred scripture with devotion, and every evening she lights a small lamp as an offering to God. By every outward measure, she is a deeply spiritual soul, sincere and faithful. And yet, inside her heart, there is a strange dryness she cannot quite explain. There is a heaviness that sits quietly beneath her daily life, a longing for something she once felt years ago, a holy stillness, a closeness to the divine that seemed so natural back then. She searches for that feeling again in her prayers, in her meditation, in her quiet moments alone, but it does not return the way it used to. What Meera does not realize is that her body has slowly become a noisy room, filled with static she cannot see. Heavy meals eaten late at night. Food consumed in anxiety, in distraction, in front of glowing screens, swallowed quickly without a single thought of gratitude. This did not happen because she stopped caring. It happened because, like so many of us, no one ever gently taught her that food is not simply fuel for the body. It is energy. It carries vibration. It carries the emotional residue of the moment in which it was eaten. This is the hidden problem that so many sincere seekers quietly carry. They search for God earnestly with their mind and their heart, while unknowingly disturbing the very instrument through which divine guidance must pass, the body, the nervous system, the inner stillness required to listen. It is much like trying to hear a soft and sacred melody playing on a radio surrounded by noise and static. The melody never stopped playing. You have simply lost the clarity to hear it. To understand this truth, we must first understand something simple, yet profound. The body is not separate from the spirit. It is not merely a container we carry our soul around in. It is the living temple through which the spirit expresses itself in this world, moment by moment, breath by breath. When we eat food that is heavy, impure, rushed, or consumed in a state of restlessness, it does not only affect our digestion. It quietly affects the subtlety of our nervous system. It affects the calmness of our mind. And most importantly, it affects the clarity of our inner perception, the very sense through which divine guidance is meant to reach us. Divine guidance does not shout at us. It does not arrive with thunder or loud declarations. It comes softly, as a quiet intuition, as a gentle inner nudge, as a feeling that says, "This is right," or "Wait, do not go this way just yet." But a mind that is clouded by heaviness, by restlessness, or by inner toxins is like a still pond that has been stirred up with mud. Even if the moon is shining brightly above in the night sky, you simply cannot see its gentle reflection in water that has become murky and disturbed. This is also deeply psychological in nature. Food eaten in haste, in anger, in fear, or in emotional numbness carries the residue of that very state into the body as it is consumed. Slowly, without our noticing, the nervous system becomes accustomed to agitation rather than to stillness. And a restless nervous system, no matter how sincere the soul behind it may be, simply cannot perceive subtle and sacred things. It is far too busy reacting to the world around it to remain quietly receptive to the world within. This is not a punishment from above. It is simply a natural and impartial law, as real and as consistent as gravity itself. Many of us find ourselves drawn, again and again, to certain foods, certain habits, certain cravings, even when deep down we already know they leave us feeling heavy, dull, or quietly disconnected from our higher self. Why does this happen so often, despite our best intentions? In most cases, this is not a sign of weakness. It is simply a pattern, a groove worn gently into the mind over many years, and sometimes, as some spiritual traditions believe, over many lifetimes, of seeking comfort through the senses rather than through the deeper peace of the spirit. Every single choice we make around food becomes a small seed planted within us. When eaten with awareness and gratitude, that seed nourishes not only the body, but the inner life as well. When eaten unconsciously, out of stress, boredom, or emotional escape, it becomes yet another quiet layer added to the invisible wall standing between us and our own deeper awareness. This is not meant to bring guilt into your heart. Karma, in its truest sense, is not a punishment waiting to strike us down. It is simply a pattern gently asking to be noticed, acknowledged, and understood with compassion. The sincere seeker who keeps feeling spiritually blocked, despite their best efforts in prayer and meditation, is often not being punished by God in any way. They are being lovingly invited, again and again, to look more closely at the small, ordinary, daily choices that quietly shape their inner climate over time. And here is the beautiful truth hidden within this teaching. Destiny does not mean that we are powerless in this moment. In fact, this is one of the very few places in life where our daily, seemingly small choices carry enormous spiritual power. Each meal eaten with consciousness becomes a quiet, living prayer. Each meal eaten without awareness becomes, sadly, a missed and gentle opportunity for growth. How can you begin to recognize whether this hidden disconnection is quietly happening within your own life? You may notice that after a heavy or hurried meal, meditation suddenly feels almost impossible, as though your mind keeps wandering restlessly from thought to thought, refusing to settle into stillness. And yet, on the days when you eat simply, mindfully, and with genuine gratitude, you may notice that your intuition feels sharper and clearer than usual. Decisions seem to come more easily. You sense, almost effortlessly, what feels true and what feels false within a situation. Think, for a moment, of a student who eats a heavy, rich meal just before an important examination, only to find his mind dull, slow, and clouded, compared to another day when he eats lightly and mindfully, and feels alert, clear, and sharp in his thinking. Or consider the person who eats a meal in the middle of a heated argument, swallowing their food along with their anger, and later that night finds their sleep strangely disturbed, even though the meal itself had nothing directly to do with the conflict. The emotional vibration of that anger was simply absorbed quietly into the meal, and carried forward into the body, long after the argument had ended. These small, gentle signs are never mere coincidences. They are quiet messages from your own inner being, patiently showing you, again and again, the very same truth. A calm, clean, and gratefully eaten meal becomes a clear and open window to the soul. A hurried, heavy, and emotionally charged meal becomes, instead, a clouded and dim one, making it far harder to see or hear what lies beyond it. Here is the gentle and reassuring truth in all of this. You do not need to become perfect in order to begin healing this hidden disconnection. You simply need to become aware, one small and loving step at a time. Begin by pausing for a few silent seconds of gratitude before each meal. Even this brief moment of thankfulness quietly changes the vibration of what you are about to receive into your body. Choose, wherever possible, foods that are simple, fresh, and naturally alive with their own gentle energy, such as fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, rather than food that has been heavily processed or taken far from its natural state. Eat slowly, with presence and attention. Eat without your phone glowing in front of you, without arguments echoing in the background, without anxious thoughts racing through your mind. Allow your meal to become, even briefly, a small and sacred meditation in itself. Notice your emotional state before you sit down to eat. If you are feeling deeply upset, angry, or overwhelmed, it may be wiser to pause for a few moments, breathe slowly, and allow that inner storm to settle before you begin eating, rather than consuming your food in the very midst of emotional turmoil. And perhaps most importantly of all, please do not turn this gentle practice into yet another source of guilt or pressure for perfection. The goal here is not a flawless diet, free of every mistake. The goal is a more awakened and loving relationship with your own body, treating it gently, as a sacred instrument of the spirit, rather than simply a machine to be filled and emptied each day. Small, consistent steps, taken with love rather than fear, will quietly and steadily clear the inner channel over time. Here, finally, is the deeper truth resting quietly beneath everything we have explored together today. The divine is not distant from you. The divine is not waiting behind some far-off, locked gate that only the perfectly pure are ever allowed to enter. The voice of guidance is always present, always gently speaking, much like a loving mother softly whispering to a child who has not yet learned how to truly listen. Our task, then, is not to somehow become worthy of that sacred voice. In truth, we already are worthy, simply by existing as we are. Our task, instead, is simply to quiet the inner noise enough to finally hear what has always, patiently, been spoken to us. Every mindful meal becomes a small act of devotion. Every grateful pause before eating becomes a quiet offering. Every choice made with awareness instead of haste becomes a gentle way of saying, without needing any words at all, I am preparing myself, quietly and humbly, to listen. In this beautiful way, even something as ordinary as eating a simple meal becomes sacred and meaningful. Not because the food itself holds some special holiness, but because the awareness and love you bring to it transforms it into something deeply sacred. So the next time you sit down to eat, I gently invite you to pause for just one quiet moment. Breathe slowly. Offer a silent word of thanks. And know, in your heart, that in that small and simple act, you are gently opening a door, the very door through which divine guidance has been patiently waiting, all along, to enter your life. If even one heavy meal, eaten in haste, in worry, or in distraction, can quietly dim the light of your inner perception, then imagine, just for a moment, what a life of mindful, grateful eating could slowly awaken within you. Imagine a life where your meals are no longer rushed obstacles between tasks, but small, sacred pauses where you reconnect with yourself, and through yourself, with something far greater than yourself. This is not about restriction or fear. It is about reverence. It is about remembering that every part of your daily life, even something as simple as a plate of food, can become a doorway back to the divine, if only you choose to walk through it with awareness. So today, I leave you with this gentle question to carry quietly in your heart. When was the last time you truly listened, not just with your ears, but with a calm body, a settled breath, and a quiet, undisturbed mind? Sit with that question for a moment before you move on with your day. And if this message touched something deep within you, if even one part of it felt like it was speaking directly to your own journey, I would love to hear from you. Please write a comment below and share what part of this video moved you the most, or perhaps share an experience of your own, a time when you noticed your food and your inner peace were quietly connected. I would also love to know what you wish to explore next on this path together, so please tell me in the comments which topic you would like our next video to cover. And if this message could help someone else who is also searching, gently share it with them, and consider subscribing, so we may continue walking this sacred path together, one quiet truth at a time. Until we meet again, stay mindful, stay devoted, and stay close to the light within you. Jai Guru Dev.